is happening? It's your boy Retro back again with another one. Now you guys could probably already tell that it is going down. Just by that title alone, you guys are definitely going to want to check this one out. So we got Attorney General Pam Bondi dealing a major blow to the Democrats on the release of the Epstein files after exposing everything just last night in a closed door hearing, guys. And I'm excited to get into this one. So without further ado, let's get straight into the scoop.
And let me be clear on this case. This case has spanned multiple administrations. It started under Bush. It went to Obama. It went to Biden. We were the only, no documents were released, only under the Trump administration. And we released 3 million documents, had 500 attorneys working on that, complying with the law the best we could, and protecting victims in doing it.
Madam Attorney General, this
ahead.
has been quite an odyssey for you. This began with an encounter you had with some activists in the Roosevelt Room where you handed out some binders. Then there was a discussion, a statement that the FBI and DOJ put out that this investigation was over. Flash ahead to a couple of weeks ago, you had a very unusual appearance before the House Judiciary Committee. Do you have any regrets? Is there anything you might have done differently? And do you think that your comportment and the department's comportment in this have exacerbated the public's lack of trust in this process?
Well, let me repeat what I just said. This has spanned 4 administrations. Bush, Obama, well, Trump won, 45, where Jeffrey Epstein was prosecuted, and then Joe Biden's administration, where 0 documents were provided. We have provided 3 million documents. 3 million documents, the height of the Eiffel Tower, used 500 attorneys working around the clock, have identified, either they self-identified or through their attorneys, 1,200 victims who we did our very, very best to protect their identities. And so we're proud of the work that we've done on this.
Like
Go ahead. Next question.
Democrats on the committee walked out. They called it a, quote, fake hearing and said you were just trying to get around appearing for a deposition. Can you respond to those?
Sure. We were there to answer questions. It's the evening. We came at their convenience. We gave them as much time as they wanted, and one congresswoman screamed C-SPAN wasn't in there, so she didn't want to ask questions. Yet all day long they've been on social media saying they had all these questions. We sat there saying, anything you want to ask us, anything you want to ask us. And they screamed C-SPAN wasn't there, one of them, and then they stormed out of the meeting. So thank you all. Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you.
All right, folks, talk about absolutely getting exposed for who you truly are. We've seen Pam Bondi destroying the Democrats last night. They had her drugged down to a hearing to testify or answer questions over the non-release of the Epstein files. Then they get into the room. They find out it's a closed door hearing. There isn't any news networks and there's no reporters, no cameras. So they storm out and say that this is not what they want. But I thought all they really wanted was answers for why the files aren't being released. If that was the case, you don't need cameras present to do that. But again, we see that this is political theater for the loonies on the left. And honestly, the person who I'm most disappointed with in this case is Representative James Comer, and he's on our side. I mean, why even play into these games from the loonies on the left? He tweeted out last night saying the oversight Democrats tonight had the opportunity to ask Attorney General Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche any questions they wanted. What did they do? They stormed out and ran to the cameras. No one should be surprised. And honestly, you shouldn't be surprised that the Dems are playing these games. I don't understand why you're playing right into their hands. They're essentially playing this guy like a fiddle to, keep drumming up this narrative to say that Pam Bondi needs to be prosecuted and, drug in front of these oversight committees to make sure she's testifying to the non-release of these files. Last time I checked, she's released more files than any other administration, so she's doing her job correctly. I'm tired of the criticization of Pam Bondi. Now, here's what James Comer had to say after that so-called hearing, because there weren't any questions asked.
They didn't ask any questions. The Attorney General's here, but they said they wanted C-SPAN in here. They want the cameras, and very, very typical behavior of the Democrats. Very disappointing, because I really felt like there were a lot of the Democrat members that cared about getting the truth. But I've never seen members storm out of a briefing with the Attorney General and the entire leaders of the Department of Justice are there to answer questions, and they don't ask a single question. So, but I think what we heard today helped us. We'll continue with our investigation and move forward.
Okay, so James Comer keying us in on what he's seeing. And of course, it's the same story all around the board from the folks who are living inside the real world, the real reality, what's happening. The Democrats keep saying this is all Pam Bondi's fault, but in all honesty, they had their opportunity, their chance to ask any question they wanted, and they chose to make a scene. Back to my point where I'm saying this is all political theater coming from the Dems. I mean, we went 4 administrations without one single file being released, not an individual being prosecuted. The only administration anyone was prosecuted under was President Donald Trump in his first term, as Pam Bondi pointed out. And here's what I'm most concerned about at this point. This is from FBI Director Kash Patel. Came out just the other day. This was actually 2 days ago. So he tweeted out saying that the FBI is advancing the mission of protecting America's children at a level never seen before. This is where we need to be focusing our efforts and our resources towards. I'm just going to be honest with you. I mean, we're coming up and getting a big nothing burger every single time it comes to these files. This is the great work that I think the Trump administration should be patting themselves on the back for. So got 6,200 plus missing kids located. That's plus 30%. 1,700 child predators arrested. That's plus 17%. 300 plus human traffickers arrested, that's plus 15%, 764 criminal networks dismantled and arrest, plus 20%. Online exploitations and NVE arrest up 490%, 3.8 million plus. PDF accounts terminated on the dark web, 435 plus VCAC arrests, 300 plus indictments came out of that, 322 plus child victims located, and 500 plus child predators and HT arrests this year. And they just rescued 2 minors being assaulted in a 16-year-old and a 7-month-old baby. Wow. Okay, and this is what I'm talking about when I say we don't need to be wasting our resources. You know, we're seeing that the Dems, they don't really want answers. They don't want anything from Pam Bondi but to just paint her out to be this bad guy, and that's not the case whatsoever. We see what Trump's administration is doing. This is great work, and this is what we voted for. And I want you guys just take a look at this next one. This is what I mean by the Dems are taking this opportunity and running with it.
So I just got home from the most insane bullshit that Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche tried to pull. So I want to tell you guys what happened. So as a reminder, last week, the Oversight Committee on a bipartisan basis issued a subpoena for Pam Bondi to come forward and take part in a deposition. As you know, we've had many depositions. The Clintons were deposed. Les Wexner, Jeffrey Epstein's financier, has been deposed. I traveled to Ohio for that. We've had Epstein's accountants deposed. There are many people that are being deposed as part of this investigation, and given Pam Bondi's refusal to release the entirety of the files and all of the other things she's done as part of this cover-up, she was deposed. So suddenly yesterday, we get notified by Chairman Comer that there's going to be this briefing by Bondi and Blanche with no information about what that means. Truly, like we didn't even know the format. A few hours prior, we found out we'd be able to ask questions. So we show up, and it becomes very clear quickly that this entire fake hearing we had, the intention of it is so that she doesn't have to come and be under oath as part of a deposition. To paint the picture, we were in the committee room for the Oversight Committee that we're always in, where we have public hearings. You've seen this. This is where, the media is there, C-SPAN is there. Everything is super transparent and accessible to the public. This was closed door. She was not under oath. It was not being transcribed. It was not being recorded. And there was no briefing. They didn't even do 5-minute opening statements. It was just 3 minutes of each of us asking questions. And we decided to not take that at all. And we just kept asking her over and over again, do you intend to follow the law and come forward in front of this committee under oath? This lady would not answer the question. She was being so defensive. She was, I don't know how they thought this was going to go well, because they just looked even more guilty of a cover-up in the way they were acting and the fact that she literally would not commit to coming forward. And then my colleague, Congresswoman Lee, directed her question at Chairman Comer and said, Chairman Comer, are you going to ensure that Attorney General Pam Bondi comes forward? And if she doesn't, what actions are you willing to take? He decided to use that opportunity to say that she was bitching, and that's when we all just fucking had it and walked out. And this is unacceptable, and I look forward to seeing Pam Bondi on April 14th.
All right, guys, so that was Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. And you could see the Dems are doing what they usually do in typical Democratic fashion. They take it to social media to prove their point. But again, this is more gaslighting and manipulation from the Dems. If they really had any questions they want to ask Pam Bondi, they had her right there in front of her. It was the perfect time, prime time to ask questions, and no one asked anything. And then what tipped the scale for them was a response from James Comer when you guys clearly were crying and complaining the entire time. I don't blame him for saying what he did, because this is a waste of resources and a waste of times. But the Dems didn't stop there, guys. Harmeet Dillon also weighed in, saying that, quote, Pam Bondi literally said that I will follow the law at least 6 times during the briefing. Why lie? And I mean, we could probably ask the same question for Rep. Robert Garcia right here, after he's lying after this so-called fake hearing.
I just want to make some comments. We just walked out of what has been, quite frankly, complete disrespect of the process of one of our members. And quite frankly, the American public should be outraged at what is happening right now. I want to just start by saying that we opened up what was supposed to be a briefing by asking the Attorney General, which I did multiple times, if she would commit to follow the subpoena that is in place that compels her to answer questions that's under oath, transcribed, and then made available to the American people. And she refused on multiple occasions to commit to following the subpoena that Chairman Comer actually just put out. I asked her repeatedly that question. Other members asked her that question, and she would not commit to it. It is outrageous, it's infuriating, and it continues this White House cover-up of the Epstein files. It's also clear to us that this is being staged as some kind of fake hearing. We're in the hearing room. We've all been given 3 minutes of time by the chairman to ask questions. There's no briefing. There was no actual opening statements by the Attorney General or the Deputy AG. No oath. There was no, of course, she's not under oath. And she would not commit to actually going under oath and following the law. And so we have been frustrated the second this thing started. We did not get to ask any questions. This has been completely set up in a way that's been irresponsible. And quite frankly, we believe a way for the Attorney General to get out of her answering questions under oath and to the public, which we will not accept. And one of our members also was, quite frankly, attacked and insulted by the chairman, which is also not acceptable. And so we're not going to take that anymore. We look forward to asking all of our questions of the Attorney General when she comes in a deposition, under oath, transcribed, and then made available to the American people.
Yo, there we have it, guys. Oh my goodness. Once again, we're seeing the Dems losing their stuff. Our Attorney General Pam Bondi and not getting what they wanted. But honestly, this is political theater at its best. You can tell just by the way the response from the Democrats. They immediately ran to the cameras, just like James Comer said. And I believe that's why he allowed them to waste these resources. But he shouldn't even have gave them the time or the day. If I were Pam Bondi, I wouldn't even be responding to the Democrats anymore when it comes to the releasing of these files. I remember when this initially started and the Dems were chanting that Bondi was holding these files hostage. You know, they were never going to be released. You know, they were on her desk. I remember saying that, and I was in on that a little bit where I said, wait, if they're on your desk, why don't you just release them? But we got to the point where a big bulk, I think it was 3 million pages were released, and Pam Bondi said that's as tall as the Eiffel Tower if you stack them up. So you got what you wanted. And not to mention, during the last administration, you guys got zero pages. I was going to say 1 page. You got 0 pages, 1 prosecution. That was from President Donald Trump. the man that you guys love to hate. So I just don't see how the Dems are still making this argue and their supporters are believing it. We can see that this is all drummed up, fake outrage. They don't really want justice for the victims. They just want a reason to continuously attack members of the Trump administration, like Attorney General Pam Bondi, and I wouldn't give them the time of day anymore. She has done what she is supposed to do. I will focus on more pressing issues, things that the American public will like to see, like what we've seen from FBI Director Kash Patel, releasing the great successes, all the people that have been rescued, all the kids that have been rescued. This is what we're looking for. I mean, of course, we want justice for the victims. I'm not trying to minimize the situation, but at the same time, we went how long without any answers? And now we've got somewhat of a picture of what was going on. Some of the bad guys, I mean, yes, there are some annoying redactions, but at the same time, you don't know what's underneath those redactions and why they are being redacted. So I'm going to leave it alone, and I wish the Dems would just let this one die down. Honestly, it's not a good hill to die on when you see that Pam Bondi has been very compliant for the most part when it comes to releasing these files. This is a fight that they're definitely not going to win, and honestly, they're just making a complete fool out of themselves, but only time will tell. I guess we'll have to wait until, what's that, April 14th, I believe, is the day she has to testify in front of the House Oversight Committee because she was subpoenaed by James Comer at the demand of the Democrats, of course. So until then, I don't have any updates. I'll let you guys know when I do have an update on Pam Bondi and this whole situation. It's going to continue to spiral out of control because the Dems, they love to make a whole bunch of something out of nothing. That's what we're seeing. But now's the time, guys. I want you all to hop in that comment section. Let me know what you're thinking on this and what's going to come of it. Let me know, are the files going, the remainder of the files going to be released and or unredacted, or are we never going to hear about this? And the Dems are going to keep making a big fuss and trying to drag Pam Bondi down with their failing party. Let me know in the comment section below. And before you guys get out of here, if you could, please, please, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you'd enjoy more content like this coming from your boy RetroStef, catch you guys on the next week.